Whoo, it's a day. Hi, everybody. This is Ann. Welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips, another Wednesday hump day. Is it another Monday edition? I have had more sleep than for the last week. And Kiri appears to be somewhat on the mend, crossing all fingers. Yeah, crossing thumbs. So Kiri appears to be improving. Yay! Which means my dog should not totally distractify me today. We hope. Right, little doglet? You gonna be good? She looks dubious. I don't know. Actually, let me open the door so there's some air in here and that she can leave if she wants to get water. There we go, doglet. You can go see David if you want, or you can stay in here with me. All right, so hi, and yay. Yes. I'm still feeling like I'm kind of in pieces today because it's, when you've had this totally disruptive period in your life, it takes you a couple days to like get back in to your groove. Yeah, I'm in that. Hopefully I'm setting back into the groove today. One hopes. I decided that today we're going to ancient Egypt. We're going back to the Sphinx because I loved Egypt and I just need some Egyptian comfort food, painting comfort food, painting comfort painting. Is it comfort painting? I don't know. But yay. Yes. Cross all the things possible for Kiri is essentially the rule. And sorry for the late start. My internet had a huge hiccup, probably because of the Windows update, because we all know how that goes. But yeah, so without further ado, actually, let me show you guys the book. So if you love Egypt like I do, and I love Egypt, there's this awesome book. I don't know if it's even still in print. I haven't looked. It is a monstrous tome. This is my reference book. Get yourself an Egyptian reference book. My dad got me this because he knows I'm an Egyptophile. I love ancient Egypt. So this is the monster book. And this is my reference for everything from stonework colors to jewelry colors. It has a bunch of everything. It covers all of the major cities of ancient Egypt. It's super fantastic. It shows a bunch of jewelry and it's just lovely. So we're going to be using... What I wanted to talk about to bring this book out is I wanted to talk about the colors of Egyptian jewelry. So yeah, I think it's a good survey, right, Chivi? And it gives you a representation of carving and art and writing and all the stuff. So what I'm looking at here is jewelry colors. So we're looking at this. And this is pretty much the colors of Egyptian jewelry. So you've got lapis, you've got turquoise, and you've got carnelian. And you've got a bit of gold. Obviously, you've got a lot of gold inlaid around this one. And you can see that the gold is very rich, right? It's a very rich color. It's got a lot of red in it, a lot of red-brown in it. So you want a very saturated... When you do Egyptian gold, you want to go for that. You don't want to go greenish. You don't want to go, you want to keep it really, really, really rich. And your carnelian is not a bright red, although the turquoise is very bright and the lapis tends to be very saturated. And sometimes there's some onyx as well. Sometimes you'll see, and you see the variation in the color as well. So you can pull that. You can do that if you want to do different shades of blue if you like on Egyptian jewelry. Yeah, jet or onyx, right? Yeah. They loved gold. Well, can you blame them? I mean, lapis. It's a beautiful color. So what I'm saying here is that when you go for the carnelian color, that red, don't use a bright red. It never looks quite right. Carnelian is a reddish brown, or a brownish red, I should say. And probably the best color to start with for it, if you have it, is Bones Cinnamon Red, which has a bit of brown oxide mixed into a very heavily red base. And so that's probably your starter color. I'm going to get close to that today by just adding a little bit of ruddy leather to one of my other reds. But so that's just wanted to talk a little bit about our colors here. There's a piece of jet or it could be either onyx or jet, I think. Or is it the same thing? I don't remember, Chibi. But either way, that's the colors that we're going to be dealing with for Miss Sphinx's breastplate. So yeah. So there we go. There's our reference picture. Thought I would use an actual paper book today instead of looking things up on the internet. Also because when you Google Egyptian jewelry on the internet, you tend to like run into copies or, modern versions. And I always like to look at the original stuff when I can. So yeah, woohoo! All right, so ready leather for that. We want to start with We want to do the gold, we actually want to do the same gold that we did on the Fire Giant. Remember that? We had a really rich gold that we built using these two colors and then going up with yellows. I believe going up with Lantern primarily, not going up with NMM Gold Highlight like we usually do, but taking these two together and adding some white to keep it really rich is what you're looking at. Because when you look at NMM Gold Highlight, doesn't only have the orange yellow pigments. NMM Gold Highlight has a selection of different yellows that all blend together into this beautiful buttery color, which is good for most gold. But if I'm going for a very reddish, very pure gold, I tend to go up with this first, only introducing this toward the end of the process. Hey, Nomadzik, thank you for the resub. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Jet, I'm familiar with Onyx, but I wasn't sure. Ends up being pretty much the same color and same usage and probably close to the same hardness, right? So, yay! It's a black rock. You can use pure black for your black rocks. So we could put some black in here and we would be totally justified in doing so. Now, the first thing you might want to do in a case like this, actually, let me see, where is my brown liner? I'm going to do the traditional thing here and do a brown liner wash over the top of this jewelry. And the reason I'm going to do that is that it's so intricate and it's got so many little bits. And also there may be just some blorfs where the molding kind of failed. Like I can see one where a mold line went through here. So I want to make sure that I can draw in anything that a mold line may have covered up with detail. And with stuff like this that's not very recessed, doing paint plastic surgery and just drawing in the stuff with brown liner, because here, let me show you guys what I'm seeing here. And I need to actually remove another mold line also. This is a shame that there is a mold line this close, but let's see if I can get her in focus. Okay, so you guys see that? Here. Mold line, right, it goes right across the chest and right down here. You can see it. So what it did is it wipes out a little bit. It wipes out just a little bit. These little feathers here are kind of melted on this side because of the mold line. Now what I'll do is I'll use a brown liner wash to bring out all the details on this. I'll make it a pretty heavy wash too. And then I'll be able to use pure brown liner or walnut to kind of draw in, kind of duplicate the pattern and restore it on the other side. And with such a small thing, with such a small detail there, it's going to be just fine. This will also make her stop overexposing like she is now, where the white is throwing off my color balance. But anyway, she says hi. David doesn't like the eyebrows that I gave her, but I love the eyebrows that I gave her, so I'm keeping them. All right, let's see here. Oh, nose, you know what? Am I without a palette? Where did my palette go? Emergency palette run. Oh no, Kiri, I left it in the dish drainer. I have that terrible habit. 1 second, everybody. 1 second, be right back. You're good, Kiri, you can settle. You know, I've got this silly thing. You know, I've got two of these. Two! For the express purpose of having one in here and one in the dish drainer. Do I remember to work with this? Now. Do I accidentally leave both of them in the kitchen? Yes. All right, we can now actually work. Yay, working. All right, so I'm going to use my usual mixture with this, which is going to be 4 drops of the brush on sealer, 2 drops of water, and 1 drop of brown liner. I may take it thicker because I want it to stick really well. And I don't care if I go very dark with this breastplate because I can always go over it with white if I want to pop out some color. So let's go ahead and mix that up. I may go just 2 drops out the gate of the brown liner. Oh, got a little particle in my paint. Don't want that. And then 4 drops of the brush on sealer. As I mentioned to some people on the Discord, make sure you can't see your agitator in the bottom of your brush on sealer. If it's a brand new bottle and you just can't get that agitator to loosen up, honestly, pop the top off, pop the nipple out, and take a toothpick or something and stir it up until you can, and then shake it. The reason is that what is settling out down there is your matting medium. And if you just use it and you don't fully shake it, then you're going to get like halfway down through the bottle, and then you've got suddenly a lot more fluid going around in here, and it's going to loosen all that up. But then what's left of your sealer is going to frost. I've seen this happen. Do not do it. You should, if the sealer is relatively fresh, you should be able to shake it and get that agitator moving. And after that, it should be just easy to get the agitator moving. I never have a problem with this bottle. Hey, all right, Margaret. Thanks for the resub. And Nomad Zeke. Yays. Hold on, let me... Boop, there. So you definitely always want to have this in solution. And I'm going to clog. Sealer does tend to clog, because it's watery and it tends to kind of sit up in the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 2 drops of water. And I'll show you guys the consistency. I shake my water. It's like, very silly, but it's all habit. When I get a paint bottle in my hand, I shake it. Like, that's just absolute habit at this point. So there's our mixture, and I'm going to grab my glasses and grab a mixing brush. Doo-doo-doo. Yeah. And mix that up. And because I added 2 drops of brown liner, it's actually still really thick. So I'm going to be like, I'm going to add actually 1 more drop of water. So now I'm 3 to 4. I want to see it fall off the sides of the palette. I don't want it to be really solid and dark on the sides. So now I'm going to start to see it falling off. But it's still pretty solid. I'm going to test it. And I need to take that mold line off. Let's do that while I wait for it to kind of settle out and see what I've got. Sometimes with a thicker paint, it takes a while to see this kind of falling off the side of the palette effect. But that's what you're looking for. That's going to tell you how dark your wash is going to be, is how much you can see the white of the porcelain palette through it. Plastic doesn't work this way as much because it beads, but the porcelain is really nice this way. So it shows you how transparent or not your wash is going to be. All right, so I need to remove that mold line. So I'm going to come at it from the bottom and get it out. So let's see. There we go. And I'm just going to gently use the tip of my X-Acto to try to carve away at the little bugger. At least to the point where I think I can work with it. That it is a shame that she has a mold line right through all this detail. There we go. But at least this bottom part is bigger sections, so it's easier. Okay, got that section pretty well. The challenge here is to take it off without jarring the rest of the model. You could also use green stuff, and green stuff would be in a way easier. I mean, it's going to take longer for you to wait to paint it afterwards. But green stuff would just fill this in, and you could kind of resculpt the area, and that's much simpler in a lot of ways than trying to get your X-Acto knife in here without gouging out stuff. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. We'll put a wash on it. We'll find out for sure. Let's see. Just want to get some of these extra little particles off of here. There. As long as it's close and I can kind of disguise it with paint, I'm good. Let me just try to get out. I've got a little bit of a flap of plastic that's trying to hang on there, and I want to get it out of there. So I'm just going to kind of burnish it with the tip of the X-Acto knife and take it, try to take it down. There we go. Yeah, I did rub off. Oh, no, I didn't rub off a little bit of that. Good. Sometimes you need to finagle it a little bit. There. All right, that looks better. Let us attempt a wash. I'm thinking this is still, see how it has come off the side? That's still pretty dark. I'm going to put 1 more drop. There's 2 ways that you can alter your mixes, okay, when you're mixing a wash like this. If you want it more translucent and still like kind of thick, like more see-through but also thicker, more like paint, add brush on sealer. If you want it more watery, if you want it to flow better and not be, not show brush strokes, add water. I'm going to want it a little more translucent at this point. It's fairly watery. So I'm going to add another drop of brush on sealer. And I'm going to mix that up and look at it. And again, I'm using the side of the palette to kind of tell me how I'm doing. I can, at any point, take this out and take it up here and kind of dab it. It is still pretty thick. I'm going to try, actually, to put it on my lower belly area here and see how it looks in person, because it might be different. On bones, remember, you want it a little bit thicker in order for it to cling to the surface. So, because if you go too thin with a wash, it just won't stick to bones. This is brown liner's particular talent, though. Any of the liners should actually work like that. So it is very dark. I'm going to go around to the side here and get this area. She's got like little tassels or bangles hanging off of it also. So at this point I will kind of outline those. And I don't want to wreck her belly, so if I get a little bit of bleed like that, I'm going to rinse out my brush and squeeze it out and use the tip to just pull that away from that surface until I can't see that shadow anymore. Might put a little extra water down there to pull it off. Don't want any dark shadows on my belly fur. If you really can't get it all off of there, then you can wait and just paint over it a little bit, but there we go, that's good. So this is really heavy, as you can see, but it is outlining everything. I am not quite getting this bottom line here. Little edge here on the plate. There. That's a little better. So you can see the details. It's still very dark, but it is clinging well. So that's not too bad. I don't have to worry about up there. I can try to make it more transparent if I want. Like you could, here, I'll take some of this. Let me transfer a little bit of this to a new well. And when you're going to experiment like this, I recommend this. If you've got a big paint puddle already, just take a bunch of that and transfer it to a new well. Instead of just, for me, loading a lot more brush on sealer into here, because I'd have to, there's so much of it, I'd have to add a lot to change it. The more paint you've got, the more stuff you have to add to change what you've got. Hey, Brand Cutler, thank you for that raid. Awesome. We are working on a sphinx today. There she is. Oh, I've been removing mold lines, so I got a little bit of plastic on her. But yes, this is a Reaper Sphinx with the Bones 5 Kickstarter by Julie Guthrie. And hi, I'm Anne. I work for Reaper. Welcome, Raiders. Anyway, we were just mixing up paints, and I was just showing how you could use Reaper's brown liner to mix a wash. We're putting washes over the jewelry of the Sphinx here to bring out all the details and see any places where maybe the molding wasn't great, so we might have to redraw some details. So, what do you do, Bran? Are you a painter, miniature painter? Are you a miniatures gamer? Are you something completely different? Talk to us. Tell us what you do if you're there, or Bran's friends should tell us what he does. All right, Sphinxy, sit. Sit, stay. Well, actually, I'll put her up on a block so she'll stay in focus. There we go. Sphinxy, stay. So what I'm doing right here, there. Now we get the raid. There it goes. So what I'm doing here is I'm mixing up some brown liner, and I had a big puddle of it. The problem with trying to adjust a paint when you've already got like a big well of it mixed up is that the more paint you've got, the more paint you're going to have to add to adjust the color or the consistency or whatever you got. So I decided to transfer some of, I use a well palette, not a wet palette. So I decided to transfer some of my original mix, which I had a lot of, over to this new place before I added in some more of our brush on sealer. Reaper brush on sealer is a really good matte medium. So essentially by adding this in here, I'm making the paint more transparent without making it more watery. So it should still cling to the model well. Oh! Okay, cool. Oh, okay. Bran, it's nice to meet you. I think your wife has been on here before, hasn't she? Am I thinking of the right person? That's fantastic. Thank you for the raid. Yeah, pro wrestler plus D&D streamer is a very cool combo. This is absolutely correct. So cool. Well, welcome everybody. Well, yeah, Sphinxy here is, of course, you know, perfectly usable in D&D. I tried to give her the expression of, like, what has just walked through my door, and is it dinner? Kind of like a cat who just sees a bird. So we were painting her skin the other day, and, hi, famous person. Yeah, Kurnico. So added a little bit of the brush-on sealer to this, and we're going to see, like, because our first coat down here was quite dark. It did outline all of our stuff. Threw dice on the mat and dropped somebody on them. Oh, that'll hurt. Like, seriously, that'll hurt. Like, D4s. They're like caltrops. Alright, so now we're going to try and see what we've got. Now, this is looking a little bit better. Now, when you put a wash on, you want to really dab it on. You don't want to, like, brush it on thin. You want it to pool. Because you want it to outline detail. And if you see that after you put your coat down, I usually do it in sections so I can have plenty of time to adjust it and not worry about everything drying while I'm doing it. So if you see pooling sections like I've got there on the wings, thanks, Time Lord. Yeah, I was Reaper's staff painter for many years, and then I also created their Master Series paint line. So I do this stream because it's pretty knowledge heavy. It's a knowledge heavy stream because I explain a lot about why the paint works the way it does, because I know, because I built it. So yeah, so now we're seeing here a little bit of how that mold line wiped out some detail here on the bird's body. So I will need to bring that back in, and I'm just really going to use the other side that has come through just fine, like the feather pattern that has come down here. You'll see it better as the wash dries. But I'm going to duplicate that just with a little bit of freehand on the other side. Not scary freehand. Anybody could do this one. Thanks for the sub, JT. Save versus dice. I just thinking about it makes me wince. Alrighty, so now we're just using some straight up brown liner. Brown liner is meant to do stuff like this. It's meant to outline details over our bones plastic. It makes a great wash to outline all your details. So that's fantastic. Let me just put a drop of water in there. I don't want my liner to be very thin. I just want it to be just a little bit, just one drop of water. This is like a 4-to-1. I like the well palette instead of a wet palette because I can control my paint consistency like this. I think that when you start, for those of you who are new, or maybe are thinking about getting into miniature painting but not sure about it, when you are new, I think it's very valuable to get this sort of palette in addition to if you pick up a wet palette, which probably, you know, if you have friends who paint, they may use a wet palette because it's become very fashionable and very, you know, it makes some things easier. But when you're just learning, it can be hard to understand paint consistency, which is half the battle in getting really good effects. So I kind of recommend that you get both. That you get this a well palette like this one, and then, you know, you can have your wet palette. The well palette lets you mix, you know, a certain number of drops of X to Y and get a feel for how that paint acts. So then as you kind of internalize how the paint is acting and what it looks like, and kind of draw comparisons between those things, as you get that in your gut, as you understand it, then switch to the wet palette, and you're going to just get so much more mileage off of it, because you're going to understand like how your paint should look to get certain effects. If you try to just go to the wet palette without going to the well palette and kind of getting a feel for paint consistency, it may take you a lot longer to learn it. So I'm kind of looking, and I'm taking my brush and I'm outlining the details on this side. So what I'm seeing is a double row of feathers, which is mostly intact on the other side as well. But then we had that mold line come in, and we lost this little row of feathers down here, the third row of feathers. Feel free to ask any wrestling. You know, I am so, like, when I was a kid, I loved wrestling because it was the 80s, and, you know, Hulk Hogan for the win and all of those guys. And there was the cartoon show and everything. So that was, like, but seriously, that was the last time I was into pro wrestling. So it's, like, it's been eons since then. So I don't even know any of the new people. I haven't kept up with it because I'm so freaking busy. I have so many hobbies as it is, but it is way cool that there is a D&D wrestler. Like, when I heard about that, I was just like, yes! We've taken over. The geeks have taken over the world. It's fantastic. So, like, is the World Wrestling Federation still, like, the big dog? Are there other wrestling federations? I'll ask you some wrestling questions. Sure. Sure, Time Lord. Brandon's all we need to know? Thank you. All right, cool. Well, then I already know all I need to know, and that is convenient. I appreciate efficient knowledge. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hulk Hogan was just a cool dude. Like, just seriously a cool dude. That was all there was to it. Alrighty. Just trying to get in. Essentially what I'm trying to do here is kind of figure out where my texture is and isn't so that I can dab in and make it look more the same on both sides before I start adding color. Yeah, consistency, right? And then, well, as you go, like, I can use a wet palette pretty well now because I have such a good feel for, okay, my paint should look like this if I want smooth blending. My paint should look like this if I'm glazing, you know? There comes a point when you've painted so much that you get a feel for these things, and then you can replicate those results on a wet palette. But when you're new, it's harder to do that. So I've added in, you can kind of see I've added in feathers on this side to kind of match that side. We don't have to be super precise. We just have to make it look decent. All right, so redrawn in it, we've got the bird's face here. Got the eyes and the beak, so we've got those details are pretty well represented there. I've got the bird's body, and then we've got this double edge of gold that we're going to use. I was just showing them earlier also a piece of Egyptian jewelry to kind of demonstrate the colors that go into Egyptian jewelry. We have at least one historian in this channel, so Chibi Amy helps out. All right, let's see here. So you can kind of see the difference though between these two washes. Like, this one is definitely a little bit more transparent, right? It shows the light gray plastic through a lot better. And this one is definitely looking a bit dirtier. So when I added more, yeah. Oh, you do paint on canvas. Yeah, I was an art school person. I went to art school. I've got a beard, and I was a canvas painter for a long time. Then in college, when I was in art school, I picked up miniatures because I had picked them up ages before, but I'd never actually like really worked at them. I was in some games, RPGs at the time, so it made sense. And we played Battletech, so I painted Battletech for my boyfriend at the time. And it just went south from there, really. I ended up getting a job at the local game store, and then they were like, you can paint, you need to play Warhammer. And that was the beginning of the end, really. This led to me having a life where I support myself by painting miniatures. I have a Patreon. I worked for Reaper full-time for 17 years, and then I moved out here to be with my guy out to the West Coast. So I am now a starving artist officially. I just work part-time for Reaper doing these streams. Every morning we're here doing painting on one or another, a monster, a player character, you name it. It's interesting because I actually feel like I learned more about acrylic techniques. I've got a beard. I learned more about them from painting miniatures than I did in art school, which is kind of sad. I went to UW-Madison for art, University of Wisconsin, which you could probably tell with my Midwestern accent. So there. So see how the wash, honestly, you want it to pool. It brings out the details really nicely. So this will outline everything for us. And using this sealer as a matte medium means that the paint won't bead up. It'll actually stick on the surface, even though I'm using it really thin. And the liners are especially good at this because of their particular base is different from any other paint. But technically, if you use enough brush-on sealer, you should be able to make washes work over bones plastic. I did not prime this model, by the way. I don't ever prime my bones. I just wash them. And I find that as long as I adhere to these rules, that I can make the paint stick. It was nice to meet you, Time Lord. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, every morning at 11:30 a.m. Central, we're here. And I go until 1 p.m. Central Time. Most times, maybe even a little over. But yeah, we do all sorts of monsters and PCs and everything. It was nice to meet you. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, all your friends who did regret it. Yeah, I know, right? I didn't so much regret it. I mean, it taught me, okay, it taught me a lot about bad teaching. Does that make sense? Um, I had a lot of teachers who just were poor. Like, some of them that would just grab the chalk out of your hand and just do it, themselves. And that's not a great illustrative technique. Like, it's like, I mean, it shows you, but you could see how it's supposed to look from a textbook, you know? You're never going to learn it yourself if you don't do it, And then I had some who were like anti-technique. Like, oh, cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for stopping in, Time Lord. Oh, yeah. I also do my personal stream. We're doing D&D. We're doing 5th edition because it's the one D&D thing edition I've never run. So I decided, since I moved and I no longer have a role-playing game group, that I was going to run a game on Twitch with all my Twitch friends. So we've been painting our first character, and we are... I'm going to start with role-playing her prelude. I want to do preludes for this party, so essentially a short adventure where you just have that one character, and we show how that character kind of gets to the location where the adventure is really beginning. So background, it lets me flesh out other areas of the world. So there we go. So we've got everything. The 2 cobras are up here, and they're mostly washed in. You can also do what I just did, where there's a little hood there, right? There's little divots on both sides. If you see that one didn't fill with your wash, you can always dab it a little bit with your brush and fill in that little area so you can see it. But yeah, so actually here, let me show you guys my D&D character that we've been working on. So our first character is a bard. This is a Reaper model, Isabel, and she comes with her doggy companion. So we're painting, we just started blocking in the dog yesterday, so she's just blocked in, but she's based on my own dog, Kiri. That's her color scheme, is Kiri's color scheme. So I'll do a lot more work on like fur texture and highlighting and everything on her as we get her blocked in. And we'll give her a red collar so she matches her owner. But yeah, so this is our first character, and I have a bunch. Not all of them are Reaper. Since it's my own stream, I don't always do Reaper. I just ordered something from Miniatures Guild in Denmark, a female monk who's pretty hot. She's cool. So we're doing that one. We've got 6 player characters that we need to paint, so pretty much what I'm going to be doing is running the game and painting. So you have something to look at while we run the game. I didn't want to use just a static interface. Thanks, I've got a beard. Yeah, I try. I've been running D&D since I was 9. Seriously, that's when I got my first D&D book and started running it for my little brother. He was like 5, 6. He still remembers. He still remembers the adventure I ran him through. So, yeah, it was cool. So I've been doing a lot. I've done everything from basic D&D and advanced D&D up through years of playing and running 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 3.5, a little tiny bit of Pathfinder. I ran it once, a couple sessions, and played it. And then 4th edition I actually liked because I felt that it made it easy for beginners to learn the game, which I really enjoyed as a GM because I'm often teaching people how to play. And then 5th Ed. 5th Ed we played at Reaper. We played it in beta, but I never got to really do it once it came out. And it seemed to me that it felt very true to Dungeons & Dragons. So I've been looking forward to this, and I'm very interested to see how it goes. Yeah, another veteran of the Red and Blue books, you bet. Been there a long time. Yeah, JT Kimmel, I find that what happens is if I don't actually click through on a notification for a streamer, I stop getting notifications for that streamer. That's what I found with my Overwatch streamers that I follow. Is that if I get the notification and I go click on it, but otherwise I think what I've also found is with Gmail, notifications go to my spam. Like they go to one of the like promotions or something. They pop over into one of those subsidiary folders. So if you're using Gmail, check those. Oh, as far as the upper and lower Nile, the one on the left is probably a crocodile. It's possible because it's got a longer nose. Some of these details are so fine, you really need to kind of freehand them in. I don't know, though. Maybe? Trying to make it look like a crocodile is going to be a challenge. Yeah, it could be a crocodile. I'm not certain. I can paint it with a longer snout anyway. And this has just got a little snake head up top of it. So I can put a little shadow under there to try to show that it doesn't have a long snout. There. Yeah, we'll try it. Yeah, promotions, yep. Yeah, I don't remember which one represents upper and which one represents lower Nile. Is it crocodile for lower and cobra for upper? I never remember. Cobra is lower? Yeah. So I had it inverted. Not surprising since I haven't been reading my Egyptology lately. I'm very, very... I have too many things to read. Speaking of which, I have to, like, really speed read the D&D, like, combat rules in time for tomorrow. Just in case. Just in case there's a fight. I need to be able to run it. So I'm going to take my liner, my purer liner, and after I did this wash down here, I'm being so careful with the wash because I don't want this belly fur that we've painted to get, hurt. So since I didn't load a lot of wash on there, I don't have a real dark edging around this jewelry, and I'm going to go back in with my liner and put a dark edging on there to make sure that it shows up, you see. Thanks, Mini Painter. Yeah, if you don't click the... that's why for people I really want to make sure I still get follows on, I click the notification every once in a while. But yeah, do check any spam or promotions folder, depending on if you're using Gmail or something else. Interesting. Inspiration and advantage. Gonna just gently hit this. I'm using, for those of you who may be still hanging around, the type of brush I'm using is a very high-end sable. So it's what's called a Kolinsky sable, and a Kolinsky sable will always have Kolinsky stamped on the barrel. They come from various countries. This one is from France. The others that I like to use are from Germany. So Tobolowsky, Kolinsky, Germany. And the reason I use these is because they come to such a great point, and they will hold it for years, literally years, if you take care of your brushes really well. Oh, the belly fur. Yeah, it was cute. It was cool. I think it was when we were working on her haunches. All right, so I've got that. I need to outline the other side. Make sure that that is... Amy did not sleep last night. Unreliable historian. Is that like the unreliable narrator, where the narrator in the book is lying to you? Yeah, Kolinskys are expensive, but they're worth it because they last. So if you take good care of your brushes, I've got a beard, if you don't just leave them in the paint water, that's the biggest thing. Don't leave them nose down in the paint water. Just rinse them out and remove them. Leaving them in there doesn't help them get any cleaner. So, yeah, but then these you're going to pay. I mean, you're going to pay somewhere between 10 and 20 bucks for a really, really high-end brush, but it is going to last you for a long time if you take good care of it. This brush is over a year old. It still comes to a perfect point. I can do eyeballs with it effortlessly. It's so worth it. Like, if you haven't gotten any good brushes, when you do, you're going to see yourself level up immediately because you'll actually be able to hit the details that you've been trying to hit with a brush that maybe doesn't have as good a tip or as good of a fluid carrying capacity, because the other advantage of natural hair is that it releases fluid a little bit easier from the brush. There we go. I think we're good. We can kind of... Oh, I missed a mold line. Oh, well. I may touch it up. I just noticed that. Well, this is not going to be like a... competition figure, so sometimes I just don't mind. I'll if I actually decide to send this one to Ron or to sell it on my Patreon, I will remove the mold line and touch it up. Otherwise, I think I got most of the mold lines. I just missed that one on the inner leg, so that's not too bad. It's all pretty beige through there, and I haven't put a lot of paint on that area, so I see it. Mold line. This is one of the most awkward mold lines too, because it's on this interior surface and the paw is in the way. So I might green stuff this actually instead of doing a knife. Files don't work so well on the soft bones plastic, so you kind of have to adapt. This is a really big brush, And there is a little, you can see that there's a tiny bit of discoloration down there. But when I mix with it using this big brush, which I try not to, sometimes I try to use my crappy mixing brush, which is synthetic. Most often the answer is you should use a crappy mixing brush like this, so you don't care if it gets a bunch of paint up at the top. But because this is big, when I mix it, I just rinse it really well right after. Also the fact that I'm using thinner paint ash, because my paint, you can see how it's kind of falling off the side, it's pretty thin. Because my paint is more watery, it's easier to just get it out of the brush. I don't usually need to use a brush cleaner. I will only use a brush cleaner if I'm noticing significant discoloration near here. You can see there's a dark line, so I will need to clean it eventually. Or I will use it if I'm getting some splitting. Then I'll use it. Yours are all cheap. Yeah, if you ever get a good one, it'll level you up. Like if you're looking to level up. Some people aren't. But if you ever get frustrated, I've got a beard, because you can't, there's details that you just can't hit, and you feel like your brushes are just betraying you, or you're trying to use toothpicks to do eyes, any of that stuff. Try picking up a good sable brush, a good Kolinsky sable. There are 2 grades of Kolinsky. Kolinsky is a red sable, and it's just Kolinsky is what the top 2 grades are called. And the Reaper Kolinsky sables are a grade 2, and they're excellent starter brush that is not as expensive and will still give you, it'll give you a good tip. I usually recommend the 05 or the 0/5 or the 0/10. They're only about $10. Otherwise, the Raphael brand that I use, and the other one is Da Vinci. I'm very much a Da Vinci girl. Da Vinci Maestro is the other one I use. These are going to run you 15 to 20 easy. I consider it an investment. I couldn't do what I do if I was trying to use cheapo brushes. There's just no way. No way. No way I could do this stuff. No way I could do these super fine lines that I'm getting on here to outline the edge of this. No way. No way I could have done the eyes either the way I did. Just trying to get a lot of this lining taken care of. I do want to put a wash also on this jewelry to bring out the details. Gotten used to making cheap stuff. Oh yeah. Doesn't behave the way. Yeah, there's always a learning curve. And then it's just up to you. It's just, then it comes down to purely, if you are happy with the results you're getting, then rock it. The other thing you could do is to still mostly use your old materials, but start practicing with the new ones to learn how they work. Like, use the new one like on a miniature you don't care much about. Experiment. A lot of the things with good brushes are you want to thin your paint more. That's usually the biggest troubleshooting factor. There's a nice little wash. Something always comes up. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm in prime lunchtime. And we'll put a nice wash on this back one. Again, you can see I'm using more fluid on my brush, and I'm just dabbing it on. I'm not brushing it over things real thin. I'm trying to kind of dab it on so that I get all this stuff outlined nicely, so I can see all of my gold and jewels and where they're supposed to be. There we go. Yeah, it's great. Well, then you're already gonna succeed. I've got a beard because if you're doing that sort of thing, if you're trying new things and integrating them slowly, I mean, that's great too, because that gives you a real feel for each material and how it's different. So, way to go. Keep going. Really, the most important thing is just that you enjoy the hobby and that you're not frustrated with it. Like, that's what all my streams are aimed toward, is just don't be frustrated with the hobby. And I try to life hack as many things in miniature painting for people as I can, so that people don't get frustrated. I try to troubleshoot and help people, because I hate it when somebody gets frustrated and just wants to give up on the hobby. And when usually the fix is fairly simple. It might take some effort, but it's, fairly simple. I love to see people love the hobby. There we go. All right, so we have outlined all her jewelry. So that's all set up. So what we've pretty much done is put kind of a base coat on this that has outlined our details and put a nice dark shadow between all the little details, which is nice. It sets us up to now put little highlights and fill in things and leave that dark line in place, or even accentuate it if I want to take the liner and make it a little darker here and there where the paint didn't catch as much. I can totally do that. Hold on, I'm keeping an eye. Oh, okay, she's good. My dog has been sick, so I have an elderly pup named Kiri, and she's been very ill for the last almost a week and a half now. Oh, my sleep. I want to get caught up on sleep so bad. But yes, if I glance to the side, new people, and if you see me go, oh, it's because when she's got to go, because she's almost 13. She's a big shepherdy type dog. All right, so that's good. That's pretty good. I've got a nice dark line around everything. Now I can go back to the front and see. And now the second step of making all of this, the stuff that the mold line interrupted actually work, is to kind of draw in some stuff with white too. Yes, enjoy, Kerniko. Yeah, right, Ash, right. Yep, and that's why I gave up painting the Gloomhaven stuff, because it's just not that great. And I'm getting picky about. I'm looking at what is the new one. There's a Kickstarter up right now for a Bard Song, I think, that I was interested in. Oh, hold on, guys. Forgot to silence the phone. I had to have it on yesterday to get a call from the vet. So I normally keep my phone silenced all the time. I forgot that I even had it on. But yeah, that's the problem with a lot of board game figures, is that they're just kind of not really great. And even though the 3D prints look good that they put on the Kickstarter, then if they're shooting them in really bad plastic, they may not come out well. So that's kind of disappointing. And it's really disappointing because there's so many good figures coming out in board games that you're tempted to just pick up the Kickstarter just to get the figures. But then you never know how good or bad it's going to be, right? All right, I'm going to get some white out. What I want to do now is kind of fill in some of these feathers that I had to redraw and leave the dark outline around them so that I can concentrate on making sure my illusion is perfect, my paint illusion, so that you can't tell there was ever a problem mold line there. Oh yeah, polymer clay, for bigger models, polymer clay is good. For smaller models, what they've used for ages is green stuff, 2-part epoxy ribbon, with a wire armature under it, usually brass or copper, often, or I guess you could use aluminum. Yeah, polymer clay, I guess if it's like super sculpty, you could get some pretty fine detail on it. It won't act quite the same for some details. But I personally find it much easier to sculpt in polymer clay. It took me a long time to learn to do green. Do you follow, for big stuff, do you follow CNOT Bush at all on Twitch, Beard? Because he's CNOTBUSCH. He does big custom sculptures, but he also has done, he's done a bunch of D&D monsters, and he uses polymer clays. His stuff's cool. All right, gotta drop some water in that white so that it'll come off the brush nicely. And we'll see if we can get these things to stand out. Yeah, exactly, D. Clareman. Well, I mean, we do play Gloomhaven, so I think if I got this new one, we'd probably give it a try. I think Gloomhaven is the only one that we've got as far as those big D&D games. I guess David's got Zombicide Black Plague, but I didn't really like it. I found, I wish they did more with magic items in that game. Like, the items tend to, it's not a lot of options. I like options. Lots of treasure. Give me lots of treasure. Lots of really fancy, awesome treasure. All right, so let's use this. We're going to leave the dark around the outside. And we're going to use the white to kind of accentuate the shapes that we want. And this will help us when we paint it. It will help us keep these details standing out. And if I tried to base coat over this as it is, it will be harder to make these details stand out. But if I fill them in a little bit with white first, it acts like white paper with a pen and ink outline. It makes all the details pop a little bit more when I put colors over this white. And since if I'm going to do that, now you see I can draw in the design that I lost on this side, because this is just freehand here. But I can mimic what I see over here and make it look symmetrical and get past the fact that there was a mold line that wiped out stuff. So just doing a little bit of white down on some of these feathers, which are all going to be like jewel tones, right? They're all going to be like we looked at the beginning of the stream. They'll be turquoise and lapis and carnelian, and maybe a bit of jet if we decide we want it. If we need some black. And then we got these feathers. So we can see all of that now. It also just helps us to see the details, right? And then we'll go up here. We have to suggest a feather here, 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 and here. It's a little bit lopsided. I can bring these down a little bit more. There. That's not bad. So that at least looks like she's symmetrical on both sides, which is good. Yeah, you could totally do it with a gel pen as long as the paint is going to go on over the gel pen. Okay. Because this is just me underpainting Beard. So essentially when I put my gold and jewel tones over the top of this white, they're going to be brighter. If I put them over this muddy brown instead, they would not be brighter. Acrylics are opaque, but they still are affected by your ground cover a bit. You do get some translucency. You never get perfect coverage. And if you do, your paint is too thick. Go around the eyes. You can see the kind of detail that I can do with this brush to try to get the eye sockets on this bird with really thin paint. So now I've got the face of the hawk, we've got the beak. And we've got the feathers here. There. But yeah, if a gel pen, I'm not sure, I've never used gel ink and tried to put paint over it. Maybe if you put a spray over it, you could do it. I'm not certain if it would repel liquid or not. Some materials do. Yeah, it's never cheating. Yeah, it might be a vulture. It's impossible to tell. It's a something. Although it kind of looks crocodilian now that... But I guess, I don't know. I'm not certain. It could be anything. I should probably look for a headdress and, or ask Julie. Julie actually will tell me. If green users pop in, we need to ask her. I could just drop her an email too. She'd probably send me she'd probably tell me where she got the inspiration for it, and that would be, I could use that as a reference. So we've got some snaky things. Oh yeah. Okay, well if it works great on acrylic paintings, then it would work great on this. Okay. Oh, Sakura's a good brand. Thanks, Beard. Thanks for the tip. I know that a lot of mediums, a lot of artists, 2D artists use the gel pens now for that sort of under thing if you need fine detail. I mean, for me, I don't know if it's worth it because I've gotten so good at brushwork over the years that the gel pen would probably be wasted on me. It's like you say, right? You get really used to something And then you, when you try to use something else, there's a learning curve. I've gotten so good at underpainting with white with my razor thin brush that I'm just like, you know. But I'll remember about that gel pen. Actually, let me make a note of the brand too, because Sakura is really good stuff. Anything that makes me go to an art supply site is a bad thing, but we'll just write it down anyway. Sakura white jelly roll. If nothing else, I'll pick it up and experiment with it and see if there's any cool tricks I can pull, right? That I haven't been able to do before. And I dropped my pen cap. No! No, Sharpie pen, why have you abandoned me? Uh-oh. Well, I'll spend 2 seconds looking for it. I'll leave you with the Sphinx to stare at. I thought I was going to leave you with a Sphinx to stare at, but I couldn't. There we go. Pardon me while I find my lid. Don't want my pen to dry out. I'm actually kind of fond of these pens. There it is. It wouldn't take long. Sakura sounds like a Japanese brand. Highlights and smudging, that's good. Oh yeah, let it dry. Yeah, I could see that. You know, it's not cheating, guys, as long as you're doing something cool with it and it makes you happy. Back in the day when I was a much more closed-minded painter, I was sometimes would grumble about it being cheating, but I'm older and more laid back and wiser. One hopes, right? We hope our wisdom scores are increasing. We've been promised that as we level up, our ability scores will increase, dang it. I like to think I put mine in wisdom. I sure as heck didn't put it in strength or constitution or dexterity. Although I guess this manual dexterity. But this is just muscle memory. It's not even like real dexterity. I'm still freaking clumsy a lot of the time. Yeah, I'll definitely order some of those pens. I mean, I've been looking. I have a Dick Blick gift card that I've had forever that I just haven't used on art supplies because I haven't been doing a lot of 2D stuff lately. And I already have like $1,000 worth of colored pencils. So, you know, there's only so much I can justify spending on colored pencils, much as I love them. I've got the Pigma Microns are the ones that miniature painters have used for ages. So yeah, totally good. And again, some of those you want to let dry really, really well, and some of them you might want to seal with like a spray sealer. You can, yeah. Do you do acrylics or do you oils? What do you do, Beard? What medium do you use for your paintings? Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of Caran d'Ache, so really high-end, beautiful pencils that I love to use, but I'm like, I have a life that I need to when you go freelance, a freelance artist, you lose all your extra time to do other art stuff. You do acrylics? Okay, cool. Awesome. But yeah, the minute that I decided to make a try at freelancing, you think you're going to have more time, and it's a lie. Because you work your butt off so that you don't have to work a real job again. Speaking of which, for those of you on my Patreon, your PDF should be done today. I have the time to finish it now that Kiri is a little bit out of the woods and I don't have to worry about running my dog outside or, making her home-cooked meals as much to try to get her to eat. Although she's still on the boiled chicken. Poor girl. But she loves it, so not really poor girl. Yeah, Caran d'Ache is so good. I have, I always like the water-soluble pencils, so I have their, is it the Super Color Soft? And I've got their regular Pablo, I just really, gosh, I love their pencils. I love doing colored pencil stuff, and it always was, when I was younger, it was my chosen medium. But it was really just when I went to school, it wasn't a respected medium yet. And so I ended up taking all these classes on other things. Only later did it get its renaissance. I still follow the Colored Pencil Association of America pretty avidly. There's some amazing things people are doing now in colored pencil. So just, again, we're going to block this guy's stuff in white. If we base it in white, we can make other colors go over it much brighter. And it helps bring our details out. So we've got a little bit, again, of mold line residue here where it's kind of interfering. But we can paint over that and paint plastic surgery it. Since it's pretty shallow detail, it's easy to just fix that. Yeah, I will say that I still use a lot of Prismacolor. Even though they're kind of like a middle grade pencil, there are just some colors in that line that I really love. Oh no, the paw got in my way. Sphinx, you ruined my line. Yeah, Dragon Eye, it can. If you're the type of person, because some people hold a pencil differently than they hold a brush, right? But if you are the type of person like me, who I hold my brush like I hold a pencil, then using the pens to do fine detail is going to build the same muscle memory that you can later use for brushes and fine detail. So yeah, absolutely. It'll work that way. It would not surprise me at all that helped you build brush control, because it's the same movements. It's all just building that fine muscle memory. That's the holy grail. You want that muscle memory. Get it however you can. Then it's just learning what paint consistency you need to get the paint to come off the brush in the way that you need it. We'll have to look up Pugh's. We know this is a cobra though, so we can cobrify this one. I just don't know about this other one. I guess it could be a vulture, but it has kind of a neck and kind of a front. It looks more like a crocodile from the side. You see that longer head? Guess that could be a bird beak too. Yeah, it could be a vulture. Maybe it is. From the side, it looks like a vulture. Yeah, from the side, it does look like a vulture. And King Tut's headdress looks more like a crocodile, yeah. Well, it varied, right? So, yeah, I don't know. Probably the best bet for me is just going to be to ask the sculptor, since I could email Julie and find out. Now there's a little thin rim here, so we want a little edging right here for the crown. Want to be careful with this one. There we go. Excellent. Looks like a vulture to you. Well, since it's very tiny and kind of smudgy, you probably could paint it whichever way you wanted. Alright, got this middle part of the crown that I just want to block in just a little. And I want to get this center part, kind of fill in this gap here. I'll fine tune this when I start working on putting the colors up here, but I want to block in these areas. It's kind of an upper rim and a central body and a lower rim on this crown, like so. So 3, top edge, bottom edge, central. That's the way I'm going to run it with it. Now I just noticed I haven't highlighted her inner ears. I highlighted all of her haunches and did not highlight her ear fur. Even when we should have done it when we did the belly, because it's the same color. Oh well, more work to do. And I need to get her beads all done. You notice I do the same thing here that I did with her beads, except there was an even darker backdrop on these tiny little beads in her hair. Because they're so tiny, I wanted to go darker with the base coat so that the white stood out even more. So yeah, so now we've got all of our details painted in. This is great. This means we can actually start adding color. Although actually I'm going to put a highlight here on the central part of her chest. Just going to highlight the top. Can kind of use the underpainting to keep the rest in shadow. Want to kind of come up and trim down this shadow there. Now everything looks nice and crisp. Fantastic. Much happier Sphinx. I think people wanted me to go dark with the skin and light with the fur and wings. So we're going to be probably doing like kind of a desert falcon with those, Kuruniko. I just need to look up Egyptian falcons and choose a photo example that I want to duplicate, as I always like to go as natural as I can. I'm going to be looking for one that has some buff or golden tones in it so that it relates to her body color well. Although if I find a nice pattern, wing pattern, then I might use that and just shift the color a little bit. But they are going to be pale, so the underside's probably going to be really pale, and then the top side will have a little bit of darker color in it, and there probably will be black patterns. So we'll be doing wings. And we're going to be doing wings the hard way. Unlike our wings on the Spirit Beast, which were wings the easy way with glazes, we're going to do the wings the hard way on this one to make them look really good, because I like this model and I've wanted to paint her for a while. All right, I guess I haven't done white on the stuff down here yet, but I kind of want to get a base coat on the upper part, so I'll block in this gemstone and then we can keep moving. There was a mold line down the center here too, which was annoying. Mold lines on bones are just frustrating because I find them hard to remove. But I've also gotten way too spoiled with resin, which these days seems to have a lot fewer issues that way. Not too happy with that line, but it's mostly getting this this jewelry. I'll look. I don't have a specific one in mind. I just a lot of falcons are very similar across the world as far as their patterning goes. But I figured it would make sense to look up a actual Egyptian one for her. All right. Well, that'll work for now. I'm not going to do that one right now. Not going to work on the belt yet. Let us just do these bracelets on her arm, and then we will do a base coat on some of this. A real base coat. Like gold and colors. What have I got? I've got 15 minutes or so. Maybe 20. That's good enough to start blocking in some colors. Yeah, her wings are pretty big too, so they're going to take a while. We'll probably work on, we might work on the interior of both wings together to try to finish all of that, and then work on the exterior for both wings together and try to finish each one in the space of a show. We should be able to at least get good progress on each in the space of a show. I don't know. I might be, if the paint is flowing nicely and playing nicely that day, I should be able to get a fair amount. All right, so we've got some nice underpainting done. Let us get our gold set out. And I want to get out some red, some blue, and some turquoise. So my favorite base color for turquoise, for Egyptian turquoise, is going to be Surf Aqua. This color. It is actually the perfect turquoise color. Given turquoise comes in a ton of different colors, including like a greenish brown and olive, and it can be almost a golden brown at points. It can also be quite a dark blue, close to lapis itself. But in order to differentiate it from the lapis color, this is the baby. This is the one you want. Surf Aqua. Base coat. Base coat with that, and then adjust it with washes, glazes, and highlights till it's exactly what you want. But it is a pretty, pretty, pretty color. So Surf Aqua. Our gold base is going to be rich leather, because it's just the perfect base. Let's see. What are we going to use for our carnelian? I think I'm going to use, do I have cinnamon here? No. I think I'm going to use heraldic, but I'm going to add a little bit of brown to it. Probably a little bit of ruddy leather or blackened brown, just to make it shift. So I'll use that. Any medium red is going to work just fine if you add a little bit to it. Let me see here. What do we got? And lapis. Lapis almost certainly has to be cyan blue for a base. You can always take it darker. You can always take it lighter, but you want a vibrant color because you're doing such small details here. You're doing such little things. And you're doing something that tiny. You want to pick a color that's pretty saturated. And in fact, when I do the carnelian, if I decide if I'm doing a tiny little bead, I might well just use straight up heraldic, even though it doesn't quite read right on big areas. But if it's a tiny bead, and if I darkened and dulled it down, the color wouldn't show very well. So those are my starters with a bit of a brown added to heraldic. I chose ruddy leather just because if you choose a reddish brown, it just makes sense. Could also add a bit of rust brown. You could also add a bit of any of the oxides. A bit of chestnut actually chestnut brown would actually work pretty well. Also, so ruddy leather, cyan blue, Surf Aqua, ruddy leather, and then the gold will start out as rich leather. All right, let us see. So the wings are usually blue and turquoise, based on the amulet that we looked at the start of the stream. So let me get those colors figured out. And then probably the band around her waist will have some red in it. Yeah, Surf Aqua has many, many interesting talents. Yeah, I bet mixing it into purple gave you much the same as Pirate Girl. Except not quite as, because you'd have a blue shift on your highlights, right? So. And for those of you who don't have cyan blue, it is a really useful color. You should pick it up. It's one of David's go-to colors. He uses it a ton. David being my boyfriend, who is also a great painter. We are clogged! Pokey Tool to the rescue. There we go. Just a little bit of paint needed. And you can see the color there. It's a really pretty blue. Rich leather is a very, very useful color for all sorts of things, and everyone should own it, Rax. Everyone. Along with, I'm almost to the point where I'm pushing it like I'm pushing pure white, and I don't think anything would make me so happy as pure white does. All right, there we go. Gotta get most of the paint off the Pokey Tool. Where is my Kleenex to rub off my Pokey Tool with? There it is. Always clean off your Pokey Tool. All right. Yeah, I figured it would be close. All right, Sphinxy. Let's get your Surf Aqua. Then I can show everybody the colors. That is not well mixed enough. Sometimes you just start to squeeze it out and you're just like, nope. There, much better. There we are. And then I'll actually mix up a little bit of the red with a tiny bit of brown in it and show you guys the color. Although heraldic is a little bit dull anyway, you might be able to, like I said, you might be able to get away with it. Just use that. Here we go. Those are our colors as it stands. I'm just going to drop just a tiny bit. And when I say tiny bit, I'm probably just going to squeeze some out till I can see it. And grab a little bit of it on my brush and put it in there. I don't want to change the color significantly. I still want it to be a fairly vibrant red, but carnelian is just a bit browner, so I want to take it down a bit. And I'll probably highlight it up by adding a kind of a burnt orange to make sure that it stays that kind of color. And this color scheme works if you think about it, because it's a primary color scheme, right? It's red, yellow, blue if the gold is yellow. So it's just got a couple of different blues that it works with. There, put a little bit of water in each one. Oh, Jabberwock. How do you live? Pure white is like the only white. The one and only. Dragon white's cool and all, but still. I'm just joking. Dragon white, well, I mean, pure white does have more pigment, a heavier pigment load. But dragon is a good white as well. It's just a little bit of variance in the formulas and the bases. Pure white is best white. It's gonna vary. Yeah, it's gonna vary based on how much of certain things are in it, right, Jabberwock? I can't go into detail, but it is a slightly different base formulation, and it is a different pigment load. So when you change the base, you often have to adjust the pigment load. All right, I just noticed that I didn't have a lot of stuff there. I mean, they are very close, Tiamat. What varies is the amount of pigment, the base itself, and how much and which additives go into it. So if you're just looking between pure white and unicorn, you're not going to really see a big difference there. With the Pathfinder, because it's a licensed line, they just wanted a pure white and a pure black. So we gave them a set, just a pure white and a pure black. And there's a slight difference between them and pure white and pure black, but it's not a huge difference. I would say there are significant differences between dragon white, solid white, and pure white. And if you go and read my black and white PDF that I did for the Patreon, you'll know the differences. I don't remember if I talked about Pathfinder White in that, but when it comes to a licensed line, that is where you will get some duplicate colors. They still won't be quite the precise formula, but you are going to get some there just because, you can only go, I mean, when somebody wants you to make a white for them, you have to make a white. There's only, a few ways you can make a white. For what, Pendrake? For the falcon wings? Oh, for the wings on the falcon here, as far as these colors? Yeah, well, and the carnelian is going to probably go down here, so let's just actually block that in. Usually when they use the carnelian as an accent, it is in bigger areas, so I can start moving that in here. And on the side. And putting down that coat of thin white first is going to let this red be brighter than it otherwise would be. It's a decent enough. It's just like the things that you'll notice in variants of whites when you're comparing one white from different paint lines or even from different companies to each other. The things that you're asking yourself is, is it going to separate? How much does it change a color I mix it with? Sometimes you want a softer shift. Sometimes you want something that's going to be very bold when you add it. Does it stay in solution? Can I thin it way down to get, really good spot highlights? Or does it resist thinning? Does it separate? Every white is a little bit different. Or is it, sometimes a white will have more of an eggshell finish instead of a satin. So it'll be a little shinier. Especially whites that people want to stay really, really harsh, really bright. Because when you add a matting agent, you will take down some of that brightness. And some bases will also influence it. Hey Rex, how's it going? So I think we'll do this. It's going to be both the necklace and the wings for these Pendrake. Although I think I'm going to go... Most of the problem is that with my example... One second. I'm going to grab my example again. I think all the wing... is blue. Yeah, they've got blue and then turquoise and then blue again. All right, so they do alternating. So we can do alternating too. So we want lapis, also known as cyan blue, And this is a dark enough color that the brown liner separators aren't really going to show, and I'm probably going to have to repaint them in a darker color like walnut, because this is a darker blue. But for now, I'm just going to try to... You can still see them a little. Hey, Miniatures Den. Dang, it's raiding time today. We have gotten some seriously awesome raids. Thank you so much, Luca. How's it going? We're working on Sphinx today. I felt Egyptian. So we washed all of her jewelry with liner, and then we went and did some white underpainting, and now we're starting to put in our lapis colors and our turquoise and our carnelian. I love Egyptian stuff, so it's all cool for me. What were you guys working on today over there? I'm doing okay today. My dog has been sick, so I haven't been getting a lot of sleep for the last week or so. But she's kind of seems like she's turned the corner. She didn't wake me up last night, so I woke myself up because I was worried about her instead. Isn't it sad? Like, finally, at night I could have slept, but I was so worried about her I couldn't sleep. Yeah, but she's an old dog. Kiri's almost 13. The average lifespan for my, that big of a dog is around 10 to 12 years, so she's already done a great job and had a great life. But you get worried, you know. Especially when you've had them for so long. They really are family members. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I nicked it, so I'm going to have to kind of touch it up there, but thanks for that, Ty. Well, you know what? It's never too late. There will always be another Sphinx. It's another Sphinx or a Griffin or something, you know, there'll be something else, a Manticore, or that you can do a kind of a fade like that with. It's not, the key is really to just kind of, if you've got, she looks like she was turning from human to more leonine down here, so I decided to take the highlight from her skin and kind of work it up to the gold color I was using on the lion. So, I like Sphinx. For family, are definitely family. There. Yeah, they definitely went really crazy colorful on jewelry wings anyway for Horus and Ra. There, let's bring us in. The Surf Aqua is not showing up as brightly as I would like, but it is a lighter color. When you're doing tiny areas with bright colors or with light colors, what you're going to see is that you can't see the color as well. Just because it's a lighter color, so it doesn't have as much blue and green in it as this lapis does. So it's not showing up as well. Is what it's washing out a bit on the camera, but even in person, the turquoise isn't showing up quite as well. So I'm going to make the bird gold and the chest gold. So I'm going to get my rich leather out, which is our base coat for NMM gold. Oh, totally, you should buy another Sphinx. I mean, she is such a lovely character. She's so cool. And who doesn't need two? A pair of these would be even more terrifying in your D&D game. Let's see, let me just lay down my base coat, guys. I know she's out of focus right now. Man, a lot of cloggy bottles today. What's the dealio? Is it that day? Like, is this just the cap on it being that week for me? Is going to be that sort of day as well? Hey there, Matt. 2 riddles to solve instead of 1, and you get eaten if you can't answer both. That's even worse odds. All right. Got my rich leather and drop some water into it. There we go. Now we can base coat. She is lovely, though. Decided I was just in a sphinxy mood today. So my base coat for gold is quite dark. I like to work that way. I like to kind of work up from a medium dark. I'll add more shadows to it, but I like to start with a base like that and then work up toward a really rich yellow, down toward a dark reddish brown. But you can see that this rich leather color has a lot of yellow in it, and that's why it makes such a great base for the gold. We're just going to go and paint this right over the top here. There, we've got the hawk body and the hawk head. And my paint has, I've thinned it a little so I can still see the details that I've used liner to pick out on the head. So we're blocking stuff in. I haven't decided on this color yet. I could do turquoise, or I could do blue there and turquoise for the inserts. Let's try that. Technically, the other way around would be better, but I like the carnelian next to lapis better than I like it next to turquoise. And again, for our lapis, we're using cyan blue, 9117. And for our turquoise, we are using surf aqua, 9078. These are pretty much the perfect colors if you're doing Egyptian jewelry. Gives you exactly what you need to replicate those colors. Yeah, if you need to, you know, if your Sphinx enables you to get more free stuff for Black Friday, then go for it. That Sphinx is very useful in the cart. Here we go. The other side. These little insets. And this is just a base coat, so I am going to go and shade and highlight. I got a little bit over the top with that particular, that one right there turned into a bit of a blob. So I'm going to grab my brown liner and cut that down a bit. Once it dries just a tad, don't want it to smear. Just want to kind of cut it down. There we go. She's just a lovely model, and she's super fun. She's just got great character. Julie does such a great job on animals. There. Alrighty, I want these two bands right here to also be gold, as they're more trim and less inlay, in my opinion. Here we go. And if you go over your brown liner lines, don't sweat it. You can, one, you can always bring them back, and two, your rich leather is probably a little bit transparent, so you're not totally going to lose it. And your highlights are going to help accentuate the shadows anyway. There. I want these bracelets to be a really bright gold so that they show up against her skin. That's why I wanted to underpaint them. Remember, we started her skin with very dark, almost black color, so that's why her skin looks so dark and her lion parts look so much lighter, even though I used a lot of the same colors between the two. So this gold bracelet will also be a lot of those same colors. But because we have a white base coat under it, it will look lighter and a little bit more saturated than the fur it is next to. And then when we highlight it up with a much more yellow tone, it will look very different from the fur, even though we have a lot of the same colors. I want to get a nice solid coat on these. It doesn't have to be perfectly covering. Just want to lay good groundwork and don't want to leave any pale gray or white showing. There, that's good. Boom. All right. So I think that the center part on her collar is going to be gold, and then the inlay here I'll alternate turquoise and lapis on the top part, and maybe I'll alternate red and black on the bottom part, and the outer edge will be gold. Luckily, these little gemstone inlays are so small that it's super easy to highlight them up. It can be super fast. You just need to be precise. You know, I think I'm just gonna paint over the top of this, yeah. Because I've got that underpainting under it, so if I don't want to mess around, I can just do it this way. And I'll still have a little bit of that shadow. I can even take and clear my brush off while it's still wet and dab away some of this rich leather on the dark parts to take it off, see? All I want is a little shadow around these guys. There, so I can see it. There we go. People are just chilling in the chat. Hey, Core Mechanical, thank you for the resub. Hey, it's your anniversary. Grats. Your sub-anniversary, whatever they call that. You know what? I'm going to start with, I think I'm going to start with the turquoise here. The blue really peps her up, doesn't it? Like, and the red. And the red actually picks up the green in her eyes really well. So maybe I'll put like a red band up on her crown and it'll bring out the eyes a lot. You're too busy taking notes. I'm sure there are people. Some people are just chilling. Some people are. All right, let's get turquoise. I'm going to do turquoise on the top. Alternating. I may need to do a couple layers of turquoise. Like I said, since it's a lighter color, it can be hard to see. So I want to make sure I have a very strong base coat to make sure that the color shows up. Let's get some of this lapis color that we've got. I love how beautiful the Egyptian colors are. I love the lapis and turquoise and red and gold. Just such a great color scheme. It's just lovely. Hey, Socrates, 6 months. It's a half a year sub-anniversary. Debating if you'd rather take a nap or paint. I have that debate a lot. Especially lately where I've been losing so much sleep. And in the middle of NaNoWriMo too. Kiri. I'm supposed to be working on my books. Not debating over painting and sleeping. All right, so there we go. So now, if I want to do, I think I want to do red and black. Do I want to do red and black? Sure, let's do that. Let's put some black in here, just a little bit. They don't use it a lot. Egyptians definitely like the colors, but... little touches of it are good. Went over the gold a little bit there. Oh well. Plenty of time to touch up. If you go outside the lines here, it's not an emergency. You've got, you know you're going to be highlighting and shading all of this, so you've got plenty of time to touch it up. Cool, Mighty Jabberwock. Yeah, certainly no harm in rewatching episodes when you actually have time to focus on them. I know this is during a lot of people's workday. I appreciate all of you for coming and watching. It helps keep our numbers up. And that proves to the bosses, that and the subs prove to the bosses that this show is worth keeping. There we go. We got this coming out. See how nice this is. Just like really, all the little details are just so nice on her. Like before she was just like a big broad lion sphinx, and now she's getting some real colors. Things are really pepping her up. The jewelry really peps her up. 19 months, Kaz. Crazy talk. Oh yeah, since we got all these viewers who like know my dog, Kiri. So did you guys catch my D&D stream yesterday afternoon? We're painting a Kiri. She's so adorable. We're getting there, but she's so cute. Just love it. Alrighty. Now we need a black. Just real quick. We are at, we're at 11:15. So we should start wrapping it up. I should text Justin that he should get his butt back here and give us a raid. Yes, Staccato is the name of our bard's dog, which is the perfect name. Muse's Touch suggested it and got a gold star for that idea. So now they can create something for our D&D game. I'm waiting for somebody to like make a business, like a weapon shop, or an inn or something like that with their gold star. There's so many good. I like the NPC ones too. I do like the NPC creations because then I can use those characters in the games, and that'll be super fun because there are some really good ideas there. But like if it were me, I'd make up an inn. So I can make up the innkeeper and the waitstaff and the bartender, and the idiosyncrasies of the inn. That could be super fun. So hopefully somebody with a gold star will do that. You make a shop, it will be the punniest shop you've ever seen. Okay, Saltar, I'll make a note. Oh, great. That's awesome, Jabberwock. I'm glad. Thank you. I'm glad that you listened to us in the evening. You can, was that a Justin?
Yeah, I wanted to check on you.
Yeah, I was about to text you and say we need a raid. He's going to be echoey Justin from Beyond the Grave because I didn't bother to put you in my ear since you weren't here.
Okay, let me find a raid for us here real quick then.
Sure. There we go. Little drops of jet. Now, the black will get more seeable once we get the red all highlighted, obviously. Oh, you do a lot of pun damage then, huh, Soltor? I'll keep that in mind. But having lived with John Bono, I don't know. I think I'm immune now. Although I became punnier. That's the problem with hanging out with somebody who puns a lot, is you become punnier yourself. So there you go, guys. Like, we've blocked in all of her jewelry. She looks really nice. Here, I'm going to get back out here so we can get a sense of the whole mini. So she's really coming along now. It's amazing how much more complete blocking in that armor made her look, right? So I've got her stuck on weird. There we go. She's got all sorts of pretty. Yeah, thanks, Achilles. I love the face. I think she looks lovely. She's awesome. Once she gets her crown on there, it'll draw even more attention to those eyes. Especially if I use some red up there, so I probably will. Probably should block that in while Justin is looking for a raid for us. Who's out there, Justin?
Actually, I think we're going to be raiding Skydaddy. She's doing a which kind of fits into our stuff for, ReaperCon here, virtual.
Oh, is she going to be doing a thing for us?
She might be, but what she's doing today is something glitchy and digital inspired.
Ooh,
so
interesting.
It looks interesting.
Very interesting. Yep. Go and say hi to Sky. And yeah, Luca raided us earlier. We got 2 big raids today.
Oh, thank you, Luca, if he's still in here.
He and the wrestler guy, the D&D wrestler guy.
Oh, even better. Awesome.
Yeah. And whose name? Remind me the name, guys, because I need to remember the guy's name for
Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon.
Brandon Cutler.
Yeah, Bran. Yeah. That's right, Bran. Yes, he raided us, and then we got 2. So we got 2 big fat raids today. So thank you, everybody who's still in the channel watching Sphinxy. Yeah, the red works because then it picks up those eyes, because complementary colors make each other to look more intense, remember? Make each other look more intense. Sorry, my English is hard today. So doing the red as a color next to these green is gonna pick up the green a lot. And it draws your eyes up because it's pretty bright. So that plus when I do the gold for the serpent and the alligator or whatever it is, or the vulture, we'll have that. And remember, I've got these beads still beside her face. I can go alternating red and blue with those, and that'll also help draw the attention up there. So thank you guys for coming in, and go please say hello to Sky. She is a wonderful, upbeat, fantastic person who we adore. She's so cool. Have fun, and I will see you guys again tomorrow morning. Alrighty? Has a good one.
Don't forget, this afternoon we have Luca's Brian Wins Presents show. Check that out. We should be, I think, on part 2 of the figure we did last week. That starts at 3 p.m. Central, our time. So thank you guys very much, and hopefully we'll see you guys here in about an hour and 40 minutes. Thanks, guys.